Hello, everyone. Good to see you today. We are so glad that you could join us with us today here at Aurum Consultants in our refreshed, in our first podcast for this month of September, September, October 2021. I'm your host, Anthony Kuria, and today I am with my co-host and the in-house HR consultant, Zipi Kuria. Zipporah, karibu sana.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Awesome. We've been discussing lots since the beginning of the year on various issues uh, that that have to do with businesses, especially in regards with the HR function. And here at Aurum Consultants, we discuss everything. I mean, here this podcast is hosted by Aurum Consultants, and it discusses everything in regards to employee HR management and risk advisory. And it is hosted by Aurum Consultants, and we are a HR consultancy that focuses on solving difficult HR problems using technology, people, and and what else do we do with technology, people,
Law.
and law and law. Yeah, yeah, kidogo nilikuwa nimechanganyikiwa kidogo. And today we want to discuss about employee experience, especially as it relates to training. Now, when we think about employee experience and training, many times we are left wondering, okay, do we need to put another cost to the employer? Do you need to add another layer of bureaucracy, as it were? Somebody may wonder, okay, I mean, the COVID times, I have to just survive. I'll probably send some stuff home because I could cope. I'm trying to manage my cash flows very, very, very carefully. And here, the guys of Aurum Consultants are talking about trading. Dude, do I need to train or do I need to survive? I mean, these are hard conversations that people have. You'll get people asking UZP. You're talking about training our staff. Uh, Now, is that a very good suggestion, or do I need to postpone it for when things are a bit better? So, how do you think? How do you think, Zippy? Let's start with there before we go even very further. From an entrepreneurial point of view, why is employee training an important part of being in business? If we could start from there. I think Zipporah is a bit, I don't know whether she's with us, uh, but I wanted to, probably her connection has a problem. But I wanted to hear from her why training is one of the most important areas that organizations may need to prioritize in. And especially now that finances are, there you are. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry about the network.
All right, all right. Yes, I was saying many organizations right now are thinking we are supposed to be on survival mode. We're not supposed to be investing in certain other areas, and especially now that the economic situation is not conducive. Just for as a beginner to begin this discussion today, is it from your perspective, is it a wise idea when businesses or entrepreneurs decide to give training of their staff consideration? When you look at all the factors that are in terms of uh, finances being very, very, very constrained, and priority being to survive. Could you say about? What are your thoughts about training being one of the areas that organizations don't give much priority?
Thank you, Anthony. Apologies for my network having challenges. Um, one of the things that we must realize as business people is that training our people is not something that we can throw away. It's not something we can wish away.
Mm,
Training needs to be one of the key priorities we put in place as organizations. It needs to be part of our strategic plan. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times, and especially SMEs, you will find we don't give trainings a lot of weight, the weight that it requires. We don't give it too much of a priority. We don't think it's
mm,
really necessary. And sometimes we hire people and we think they have the skill they need to be able to do the job. But the
mm,
truth is, yes, they might have the knowledge, they might have a bit of skill here and there, but your organization is different. You need to look
mhm,
at your organization as an entity and the people you have brought on board. Yes, they might be having the qualifications, the training, and all that. But when it comes to delivering your promise to your client, do your people understand what they're supposed to do? Do they understand the organization and the mandate of the organization and how they can do their work to be able to perform those duties? So when I look at training, I don't think it's something that we can say we will do it when we have money. It's something
mm,
that we need to plan and budget for. The same way we budget for salaries, you need to think about how am I going to train my people? How am I going to equip my people? And there's a lot of ways you can do that. If you don't have the resources, what do you have that you can utilize? You probably have
mm,
in-house resources that you can utilize.
mhm,
You can use your team leaders who have the skill to train other people. So we
mhm,
can't say that we can wish away training is very
mhm,
important. Again, when I look at it from a perspective of many organizations, we look at it as a costly affair, like you said. And we're
mm,
thinking, oh, it's costly. We are having so many things competing for the little resources that we have. And sometimes we also say, sometimes I've trained my people and they have left after investing too much on them. And I always
mm,
keep on asking this question when a client tells me it's too costly or people are leaving after we train them, we are not reaping the benefit. Think about it. What about if you don't train them and those people stay in your organization for another 5 years? How are you losing as a business without training these people?
mm,
So I would say training
mhm,
is so critical, is so important. In terms of cost, let's see what we can be able to use from within. Let's utilize the resources that we have. Let's utilize the networks we have. It's also important for you to engage experts depending on the training needs you have for that organization, depending
yeah,
on where you want to take the organization. So it's important for us to look at this from a bigger perspective and see these are our objectives, this is where we want to go, and this is how we are going to get there. Bringing people in the organization that have the training does not necessarily mean they are going to be performing to the optimum if you don't give input in terms of training. When I look at, for example, when you bring in a new employee, the first kind of training you do is induction. You have to put them
mhm,
through the organization, you have to put them through this training and help them understand how the organization operates. That's a
mhm,
critical element of training that you're utilizing people within the organization. And shocking, a lot of SMEs, we don't even do induction properly, or we don't do the
right,
induction at all. We
at
bring people
all, yeah,
and we give them a computer. We tell them this is your working station. You've been employed as an accountant. Please continue with the work. So what happens with this person? They will be lost. At some point, they get to that place of feeling, I am not so sure whether I belong, or they are feeling, I am not so sure what I'm supposed to be doing. Yet, as an employer, you're sitting there and thinking, this person needs to perform. How will they be able to perform if even the basic trainings we're not giving them? So it's very critical, it's very important for us to put that into consideration and know that if we don't train our people, they will not be able to perform to their optimum. I can only be able to do so much, but I also need a bit of boosters here and there. And these boosters are the trainings, the different trainings I will get. It could be on the job training, it could be soft skills training. One of the things that I've realized, again, as we interact with different clients, a lot of employees lack in soft skills trainings. You
mm,
find soft skills, and you find yes, they have the technical ability, but when it comes to simple things, they don't have the know-how, and you can't blame
mm,
them because no one has taught them, no one has educated them. So it's important for us to critically look at this and make sure This is part of our strategic plan, and especially for the HR department.
Wow, wow, wow. You have really, to our listeners who are listening right now, if you are like me, you are downloading stuff. And if you have questions or comments, you can send them. We are live on Facebook. You can send them. You have questions, you have comments. We are right now, we are live on Facebook. You can type them. You can request to understand an issue. You can compliment. You can, whatever it is that you'd want to do, please kindly send your questions or comments as we are live on Facebook, and we'll be able to discuss them as we go. Now, you've said about something called induction, and a few other things that you've said concerning people coming in, not knowing what to do, soft skills, hard skills. Probably, somebody has, let's assume it's me. I've come in, I'm whatever it is. I'm an IT guy. I am a marketer. I am a salesperson. Probably depending on the company you are in, if it's a if it's a manufacturer dealing with goods, there are certain, depending on the company's strategic plan, there's a certain way that it wants to differentiate itself from its competitors in the market. And therefore, as a company, from what I'm hearing you, Zippy, say, as a company, then training your staff is not so much making regurgitating what they learned in college. Say if he's a marketer, or what he did when he was doing CPAs, he's now being told to come and customize our accounts here in Aurum Consultants. It is beyond that. It's about, from what I'm hearing you say, it's about inculcating the company culture into that employee immediately he walks into that company. To know, for example, we are a company that focuses on these are our standards. This is how we deal with our customers. This is how we brand ourselves. This is how we treat each other within the company. This is our target market that we are following. This is how we pursue our customers. This is how we deal with complaints and with complaints or issues like that. Therefore, from what I'm hearing you say, at the beginning when we are bringing in new employees, then there ought to be something called induction. And that induction ought not to be even expensive. Half a day, half a day in house. It could be the MD doing it, it could be the HR person doing it, it could be the head of administration. Somebody designated to usher in the new employee to understand what does this company do. And I like the fact that you've said that as an SME, you have 5, 10, 15, 20 employees. You do not have to even spend money on it. You don't have to spend from outside. You can bring people from outside when now it's something more specialized. Okay? And now proceeding going forward, issues related to the other day, Zippy, let me give you a story. I like giving stories when I'm on this podcast. I was doing some training somewhere, and one of the staff said, I've been reading. This is after training. We have trained, we have finished. One of the guys said, by the way, I'm reading a book called Emotional Intelligence. And there's a book with that title, Emotional Intelligence by so and so. And I'm learning one, two, three, four, five, six. And this is a guy, it's not even a lady. Emotional intelligence is more, some people think it's more to do with the female gender. But this is a guy, a young guy. And it just occurred to me to tell him, dude, why don't you write down carefully what you're learning? And then your boss can organize for a 1 hour, 2 hour training of your colleagues here in the morning in the boardroom. And then you train them on aspects of emotional intelligence. Okay? That is something that does not cost the company anything. Because I was telling the gentleman, you don't need to be paid anything to do that. You're also strengthening your own core skills to be able to stand. Today, you're standing before your colleagues who are 5, 6, 8, 10. Tomorrow, you might find yourself standing before 100 people, before a symposium of thousands of people, doing the same thing. Okay? So you're boosting your CV and boosting your confidence as you do the training of your colleagues. So therefore, to our listeners, I would like to tell you, training is not something that begins from outside. It can start right where you are. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a business manager, you're wondering, okay, I don't have a budget for training. Why don't you just begin with the skills that you as a manager have, training the people who are under you, coordinating with with a larger company or things that we do. And then now, if there are gaps, now you bring in experts to be able to handle it. Now, let's
Anthony,
move.
no,
Yes.
there's something you've said that I think is very important about, when people come, they have all the skills and we expect them to, to perform at the workplace. And I think
Mm,
we need to understand there's a very clear difference between what I have learned in school and
mm,
what actually is practically, happening on the ground. In
sure.
Kiswahili here, I don't know whether it's Kiswahili or Sheng, vitu kwa ground ni different. What
Mm,
you have learned in school and what actually you're going to apply at the
mm,
workplace sometimes is not exactly the same. So you need
mm,
to understand, you need to learn the ropes, you need to learn how does this organization work? How do they do this? Like you said, how do they handle their customers? What are the
mm,
policies that are in place that I need to understand and I need to implement? How do we move from point A to point B to make sure the product we are developing for our customer is up to, to par? There's a
mm,
lot that, we need to give to the employee that we have brought on board for them to be able to understand this is how we work as an organization. So it's important for
mm,
us to look at it from that perspective. Again, like what you said, utilize internal resources. What I
mm,
have realized, sometimes we are very skilled people who have a
mhm,
talent. Sometimes training them, also helps bring out those, hidden talents, and they're able to pick those talents and they're able to exercise them within the organization. They're
mhm,
able to actually transfer knowledge to other people. Like for instance, in our own organization, we've started this thing of, employees giving employees the responsibility to train their
mm,
colleagues because they
mhm,
have some knowledge that they can transfer to the other colleagues. So it's
mhm,
important for us to look at it from different perspectives and utilize what we have. If we don't have the budget, there's always a solution. I think the worst place we can be is to say we don't have the budget and do nothing about. As a business lead, if you have a few staff members, yourself, you can train.
mm,
When you look at your organization, you are the visionary. You know how you have started the business. You know where you're taking the business. You can start from there. Train your people to understand this is a vision, this is a mission of our organization.
mm.
One of the things that
Correct.
really saddens me is when I go for trainings and I ask employees, what is the vision of this organization? Or what is the mission of this organization? And they are completely blank. It kind of shocks me because it tells me that yes, we have brought people to work for us, but we have not taken the initiative to help them understand. And this is through basic trainings. This is what
Mm,
our organization is about. This is the customer we are serving. This is how we are serving this customer. This is our vision. This is our mission. Because they need to internalize it, not just cram
mm,
the mission and the vision. They need to internalize and understand what does this really mean for me,
mm,
and what I'm doing every day in order to achieve this mission or this vision. So it's important
mhm.
for us to look at these things from different perspectives.
Very, very, very true. Actually, now as you speak, I've just remember. It has now brought me to the next point that I wanted us to discuss about, and then the question comes up: why is employee training and development critical to an organization's success? Somebody may ask me, why is it critical? Why do I have to spend money on dealing with this thing? Okay, I have the money. Okay, okay, yeah, it sounds like not a bad idea, but then why is it important? Like the point you have just raised, somebody will say, I'll train my staff, and then they leave. I may not spend money training them, I may, internally I may do this, or even if I spend money on it, it's not damaging to my budget. But then they leave. They train, they leave. So I'm left wondering, okay, why did I bother? So for such a person who is wondering, why is it important? Why is it critical to the success of my organization? From your perspective, how do you answer such a person?
I think it's important for us to think about this thing critically. When you look at training people, yes, you might train people, and sometimes it's expensive, and you train and this person leaves. But before we get into the expensive trainings, as an organization, can we define the basic trainings that each
Mm.
employee must undergo as an organization. Any person
Mm-hmm.
working for Aurum consultants, can we make sure that these particular trainings, they must go through these trainings? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it
Yes.
comes to training, and these trainings are expensive, again, there are different ways of making sure you get the results. And if you're not able
Mm-hmm.
to get these results, then how can this employee be able to pay back? For example, you have invested 300,000 in an employee. That's not a cheap
Mm-hmm.
training. Okay.
Sure.
And sometimes you'll find an organization will bind an employee to work for at least a year or 2 years before they exit.
Yes.
And if they exit, then they need to reimburse the cost of this training. And
Mm.
this enables you as an employer to make sure you recoup your investment through the skills this employee is gaining. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things, as I respond to your question, we have to realize when we form businesses, when we register a business, when we have that
Mm.
business idea, there's a goal to that business idea. There's a goal to
True.
why we have started that business. And the
That's
one major goal is to make profits. If you're running a business and you're not running it to make profits, unless you're an NGO, then really I'm not
mm.
so sure why that business was formed. So one of the key
Yes.
areas, of course, is to be able to make money and make profits, right? So if we are going to look at, why is it important for an organization success, you have to realize training employees will improve on productivity.
Mm.
If an employee does not know what they're supposed to be doing, they will do the bare minimum. They will do
Yes.
what they know best. And what they know
Mm.
best might not be exactly what your expectation is. So training
Mm-hmm.
them, number one, would improve on productivity. The other thing is the employee personal development. One of the things, again, you have to realize, and if you've been in the corporate world, if you keep on doing the same thing over and over, and there's nothing to refresh, your skills, probably be able
Mm.
to do something a little bit different. What happens? You start getting bored. You start thinking about this job is too repetitive. I am not getting
Mm.
any benefit out of it. And I've heard people sometimes say, I want a job that is more engaging. So it's important for you to also realize the employee needs personal development. And that personal
Mm.
development will also lead to productivity, which will be beneficial to the organization. The other
Very
thing
true.
you must also remember is we need to have our employees engaged. One of the
Mm.
things that we have to learn is to make sure we are measuring whether our employees are engaged. They might be here, but they are not here. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
ways to make sure your employees stay engaged is through training, different
Mm-hmm.
training programs. Do TNS, do training needs analysis, get to understand what are their gaps, what are their needs, how do we
Mm-hmm.
bridge these gaps through training so that the employee stays connected. The other thing, of course, is Kanban culture, and this would help
Mm-hmm.
in terms of forming that culture of an organization that you want. You want an organization that is known for being able to take care of its people, being able to improve people knowledge and people skills, an
Mm-hmm.
organization that is productive, an organization that takes care of their customers. We can't
Mm-hmm.
achieve this unless we invest in training. So it's very important. And again, when you also train employees, you have to remember it helps these employees prepare for higher responsibilities. You've seen
Mm.
scenarios
Correct.
where opportunities arise, senior opportunities arise. And instead of going out to look for people to come and replace the person who has left or person to
Mm-hmm.
fill in the gap that has been identified, you can promote people from within. But if these
Mm.
people have not been equipped, they've not been trained, it might be difficult for
Mm.
them to fit in. You might promote them, but they'll not be able to perform. So there's a lot of benefits an organization can be able to derive. There's a lot of successes an organization can be able to get from just training their people.
Okay, okay. Those are very good points, and I'm sure those who are listening to us, as I said earlier, if you have comments, if you have suggestions, we are live on Facebook. Kindly post them, because you've said something that I find very important for I as a business person. That tomorrow I expand. My business has grown a bit. I expand. We're expanding, and we are needing to promote somebody or to hire somebody at a at a good level. So the question now first comes, and I'm sure all companies have this. You will find, hey, ule madam or that guy or that lady, they would make a very good manager. They would really make a very good. Senior executives can see that. Senior management can tell. certain individuals can be able to rise. So if you're an SME and you do not have a clear, defined way to train for future opportunities of your staff, people who are working hard, they are loyal, they are driven. You can tell when you give them extra responsibilities, they're able to rise to the occasion. Then, if you have been investing in their training, then you will not need to start, going out there to. The option of having to hire from outside is not as urgent as promoting from within, because this person already understands your company culture. They already understand the markets that you're dealing with. They already understand what the company lives for, what its mission and vision, and where it is going. And you find with if such a person is undergoing training and refresher courses and understanding also where the company is going, then you have saved yourself lots of money of hiring an outsider, having to train them from scratch who you are, and then for them getting up to speed with their fellow colleague. So what I'm hearing you saying is that training and developing your employees is a win-win situation. It's a win-win proposition. And let me also tell you something, Zippy, that I found in my short, in my short career, the corporate career, is that an organization that has a reputation beyond paying and all those kind of things to their staff, of also developing their own staff, tends to become very attractive out there in the market. Tends to be very attractive. People, especially fresh graduates or people who are joining from the joining the corporate. Let me use an example that I think most of people in our audience know. The big audit firms like PwC and the rest, Deloitte and the rest, they have that reputation that once you go in, there's a way you're groomed and trained to be what they're supposed to be doing. So what happens in colleges? These big audit firms do not struggle to get to cherry pick the best academics. They cherry pick the best. Why? There is also a reputation beyond the pay and all those kind of things. There's a reputation there that you will get molded and trained within the specific company culture, that there's an opportunity for you to grow within that company culture. So for those of us who are thinking, oh, I'm not PwC, but I'm just Aurum consultants. I'm just a manufacturing firm here. Well, think about EABL. People join EABL because they know they will not only be trained, but there is a culture there. There's a prestige, and that prestige is not because of the bottom line or the top line or bottom line figures. It also comes with whatever happens inside the company, the trainings that you're molded and trained and enabled to excel in whatever function that you're doing. So what you've put across is, for those of us, for the entrepreneurs who are listening to us and wondering, why should I bother with training? Just look at the companies I've just mentioned. And not just those big ones, even there are also others wanachezea hapa katikati, but they have developed a culture of training and developing their employees, and they therefore become attractive. When they send applications, they're able to cherry pick what they want. Why? Because they look very attractive to not only fresh graduates, but even people who are somebody in one company and thinking, if I was to get an opportunity there, a peer company like where I'm working, I will go very quickly. Why? Because they train and develop their staff. So it's a win-win situation for the companies. It's a win-win situation for uh, any business that invests in training its staff. Now, I have the third point. Coming to the third and final point, I see our time is really going. What benefits one would wonder? What are the benefits that would you as an entrepreneur derive from training your employees? What benefits do you think could you probably give us for training of your employees?
I will start by saying there are more disadvantages of not training your staff than the
Yeah.
advantages you derive from training your staff.
Mm.
Because if you don't train your staff for sure, you will have mediocre employees. Yes, they might have the
Mhm.
training from college and all that, but they need to understand your organization, they need to understand your product, they need to understand your client so that they are able to perform. A lot of
Mm.
times we fault employees for non-performance. But as employers, what effort have we put in place to make sure these employees are trained and they are trained to do their job well? Okay.
Mhm.
Now, to talk about the benefits that would derive from training employees,
Mhm.
one, an organization is able to keep pace in what is happening in their industry.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's a lot that is happening in a particular industry. So if you don't keep pace by making sure your employees are up to the expectation, they are up, their level of productivity is high, you will find yourself at the lowest of the lowest level in the
Mm.
industry. And you will wonder why your competitors seem to be doing better than you're doing.
Mhm.
So one of those benefits is to make sure you're keeping pace as an organization. The other thing is it gives the organization a competitive edge. And again, you
Mhm.
will realize, the business environment keeps on changing. Innovations are changing. Technology is taking over businesses. So you need to
Mm.
make sure your employees, are up to the level where, you can have that competitive edge against
Mm.
your competitors. Because you have to remember, you're not in the field alone. There are other people as well. There are other players as well. So
Very
what
true.
makes you stand out? There's something you are said when you're talking about organization culture. It's a benefit an organization would derive from training employees. Have had clients, refer, and it's funny because sometimes when you have clients, you find some of the clients know each other, and you'll hear someone saying, if you get an employee from this organization, for sure, they are very well trained. And that's a
Mm.
reputation that organization has. They have a reputation of training the employees and training the employees well.
Mm.
Unfortunately, some of us don't invest in training our employees and we wait to poach employees who are trained by others, which sometimes I
Mhm.
find it to be a bit of an unfair practice. Of course,
Mhm.
everyone is trying to fight for their pie in the market, but it's
Mm.
important for us to also invest because even if you poach an employee who has been trained, you will still need to invest in some level of training within your organization for them to be able to understand what you're doing. So
Yes, that's
very
true.
important. And it boosts that culture when you're training your employees. You are known for investing into your people. The other benefit, of course, and this actually goes to the employees, is motivation. When employees are
Very true.
trained, they are motivated, they're excited about their job. There are some trainings we have done, and I realize some of the things we take for granted, some of the things we know they should be common sense. People should know. Sometimes people don't know.
Mm. Correct.
Something as simple as, for example, training employees on financial management. And you might say, what benefit does it have for me as an organization? I'm training
Mhm.
people to manage their own money. How is it my problem? Let me tell you, as an employer, it's your problem. Because if this employee starts getting into debt, guess what happens? It starts
Mhm.
affecting their productivity. But their mind is
Mm.
not there. They are busy thinking about how do I make an extra coin to cover for these challenges that I'm having. So
Mm.
something small like that. And I've realized these are small things that we think they're small, but they are very important to the employee. A while back we were training some employees on etiquette, and I was very surprised, and I realized we cannot make assumptions. Things like, how do you know when you have guests, how do you manage these guests? You've been called for, a lunch or a dinner by a client. How do you behave yourself? How do you eat?
Mm.
Simple things like those. But
Mm.
they affect
Correct.
our reputation as an organization. If you're going to
Yeah.
send an employee to represent you, you need to make sure they are well equipped to represent you well. The other
Very,
thing, of
very
course,
true.
it strengthens the in-house talent.
Yes.
I always say sometimes it's easier to engage someone probably who doesn't have as much skills in the job and train them in the job and strengthen them. But even
Mm.
if you bring someone who has all the knowledge, all the skills that they have, when you train and keep on training, it strengthens the in-house talent and they're
Mm.
able to transfer that knowledge to other employees. So it's critical. We can't run away from it, Anthony. We can't.
Mm. Wow, wow, wow. You've said about etiquette training, and somebody may be listening to us and wondering, what is that? Now, picture you as an entrepreneur. You also need to be trained on etiquette because if today you're invited to a gala, dude, you have no idea how to handle a fork and a spoon. And here you're meeting with skills of industry. You're used to kumega ugali, and here you are meeting with skills of industry. And there are various forks and spoons, and there is a there is a big cloth there, and there you are. You're going to the kiosk and kumega ugali, and the idea of using forks and spoons to deal with the meat is a problem now. Or you sent your staff to such a gala, probably even the head of state is appearing, and there you are. You'll appear like that so-called politician who used to come from Lower Eastern, who used to go with our former president, and he's struggling, you know, with forks and spoons and all those kind of things. So etiquette training, it really helps a lot. You learn things. You can organize that for your staff, so that the day you'll have a gala, for example, they know how to deal with those forks and spoons. Now, there's also something else that you've said here about skills and attitude. Uh, I think it's John Maxwell. I don't know if it's John Maxwell. There's one public speaker who says, hire for attitude, train for skill. Something to do with that.
Mm.
So that when you have somebody with they have a right attitude set on top of their shoulders, then you can be able to train them on the various issues to do with your company culture. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about you've hired somebody into your farm. Whether you like it or not, you have a culture in your company. So it's either you are deliberately forming and forging that culture, or it is forming itself in its own way. So when you train your employees, from what Zippy you're saying, when you train your employees, you are either consciously or subconsciously custom fitting them into your own organization. For example, to know what time they need to arrive. How is the company culture, formal or informal? Is it is it how do we handle whatever it is that we are handling? Uh, you know, Within the company, how do we if it's in accounts, how do we handle our accounts? If it is in marketing, how do we handle that? If it is in IT, how do we customize our infrastructure for our company? And then how are we looking forward, as we attempt to get more market share? How are we going forward doing it? And some of these things, Zippy, the way you put them, sometimes the training is on enabling staff to understand here we are an ethical firm. As we do what we are doing, we don't give bribes, we don't cut corners, we don't lie, we don't unscrupulously steal market share. Those are things that now, as you said earlier, once an employee knows where they're supposed to fit in, how they're supposed to fit in, what is expected of them by training, then you bring in the desired results that you are looking forward to as an entrepreneur, as a business manager. Now, we have come to the end of, I think our time is almost up. I don't know whether you have a final word as we close.
I think what I would say as we come to a close is that learning and development is an investment in your organizational overall productivity.
Mm,
Productivity is never an accident. It
mhm,
doesn't just happen. It is a result
mhm.
of commitment and excellence. And to achieve your organizational excellence, you must train your people. There's no
Okay.
shortcut to it.
Wow, 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 wow. This month, we are talking about training, employee experience as it relates to training. We began the ball rolling by being the two of us. So, but by next week, I believe we'll have a guest, somebody who will come in and give us a broader view of the importance of training for your staff. But if you'd like to get in touch with us, as I said, we are HR and risk advisory firm that is hosting this particular podcast. Our our contacts are at the bottom of the screen, running at the bottom of the screen through our website, through, we have our email contacts. You can get in touch by Facebook, by YouTube, by LinkedIn. If you have any questions, queries, we would love to get in touch with you. But as we come to the end of the podcast, we would like to request you to join us next week, same time, same place, where we will discuss more concerning employee training and how it is vital for any organization. So, on behalf of Zippy, take care, have a nice weekend. See you next week, same time, same place.